Alright guys, I'm making this video to go over the text heights and the importance of the text height in your drawings. Up to now we have done single line text, and that single line text we have added to the title block. Now the title block, it's right now we have it on model space. We're going to put it on paper space, and our title block, we have made the text certain size, either 3/16, 1/16, or 1/32, 3/32, I'm sorry. Now that text, see it as if it's going to be printed on the sheet of paper. So the text on your title block is not going to change sizes because it's already set to be on paper space. Okay, so that's not going to change. Your title block is always going to be on paper space, and remember, from paper space is where we print. So the text that we have there on the title block that is going to be on paper space, that doesn't change sizes because you're not going to scale the title block itself. You're going to scale the drawings inside the title block. Okay, so on the drawings inside the title block, which are in model space, and I'll show you right now, those do have those drawings do have some text. It might be dimensions, it might be notes, it might be tags, you know, different annotations. The ones that are inside model space, that text needs to be adjusted certain sizes according to the scale, so that when you see it from paper space through the viewport, as you scale the drawing up or down, the text has to adjust. So you have to think about, how do I adjust the text? In other words, how big do I make the text in model space so that when I'm on paper space, it looks the size that I need it. Okay, again, I'm going slow because I want for this to make sense. Again, here on my screen, this is on your standards manual. Our text height that we're going to be using when we print out our sheets, the text height on the sheet when it gets printed has to be 3/32 of an inch right here. Okay, that has to be the text height. So when I print something out on a sheet of paper, the text itself has to be 3/32 on the paper. Okay, on the paper itself. So that means that inside that, or when you print that sheet, there's going to be a drawing there that you draw in model space, and then you open a viewport and you can looking down into model space, looking at that drawing, and that drawing has text. So in model space, you have to adjust the text so that in paper space you see it 3/32. Okay, now hopefully this makes a little bit more sense. We have discussed a scaling. It's making the object, the actual object, bigger or smaller. In our case, more than likely it's going to be smaller, unless it's a detail. Okay, so we have a house that is 50 by 60, or a building 50 by 60. That itself, 50 feet by 60 feet, doesn't fit on a sheet of paper. So we're going to scale that down so that it fits on a sheet of paper. That's called scaling. Now we're not making the building smaller. All we're doing is that on the viewport that we open, we're pulling it back so we can see the entirety. For example, imagine right now I'm in model space and you're on paper space. So the camera is a viewport. Okay, that camera that's right there is a viewport, and I'm in model space and you're in paper space. So if I get closer to the camera, you see me bigger. If I pull away from the camera, you see me smaller. Again, that camera right there, that rectangle you see right there, it's the viewport. So if I'm in model space and you're in paper space. So if I get closer to you, I get bigger. If I pull away, I get smaller. That doesn't mean that I'm actually getting smaller physically. It's just that you see more of me because I'm pulling away from you or getting closer to you through the viewport, which in this case is the camera. Okay, so that's the idea of scaling. You pull back, see more, get closer, you go see less, or see more of the building, I'm sorry. Get closer, you see less, and you see more detail. Okay, now, with that in mind, let's say I'm a drawing, and you want to see more of the drawing, you have to, through the viewport, which is the camera, you have to push me back. Now myself, I'm doing it myself. So now imagine that I have text. I have text. I'm a building, I have a text right here, let's say. So this text also in model space, you add the text in model space. So this text, it's this big. If I get close to you, that text is gonna get bigger too. Also, if I get away from you, that text is gonna get smaller. Okay, so for that reason, you have to think of what scale you're gonna set up so that my text, you can adjust it here, either bigger or smaller, depending of if I'm get closer or farther away from you, which is scaling. Okay, so remember one time when I told you one of the first things you should ask when I give you a drawing or you start a drawing, it's what sheet you're going to print on. That's the first thing, because that's going to determine the scale you're going to be using. Once you determine the sheet and you figure out the scale, now with that scale you have to figure out the scale first, because everything's going to tie down to that scale. Okay, text height, multiliters, dimension styles, blocks, line types, all that's gonna affect, all those things need the scale. Okay, again, scale means how close you want or how far away you want me from, how much you want to show. Now the scales, we have them here, and we have played with this in our class. These are the scales right here. Okay, you can set it up to 3/30 seconds, you can set it up to a quarter, and so on and so forth. For example, let me open a drawing. Okay, we have a drawing here. Some of you send me this one. So we have a drawing here that it's 16:4, I believe. Okay, 16:4. Oh yeah, because the wall has been added. Okay, so this is 27 by 17, something like that. It doesn't fit. It doesn't fit on a 8.5 by 11 sheet, so you have to scale it down. And you did this for the test. Remember, you went to the layout. Okay, so this is the viewport. Okay, that's the camera. You go in here. You want to see less of it, you zoom out. You want to see more of it, you zoom in. You're not making the building bigger or smaller, you're just getting closer to you, getting a lot more closer to you or further away from you, and that's called scaling. Now, we're not going to scale it like this, we have to give an actual scale, and the scales are right here. We have gone over this. So for example, I want to figure out the scale. I can go to, for example, let's try, let's say an 1/8. Okay, maybe a little bit bigger. We can try 3/16. Okay, so let's say we're going to print out 3/16. Now, the scale right here is 3/16. It means that when we print it, if we get our scale and go to 3/16, we should measure, it should be exactly the measurement that it gives us in model space. Okay, now notice this. Again, we're just fitting the building inside a viewport that is going to be in paper. This is the paper itself through the viewport. Okay, so we scale it. Here, we give it the scale right here. And the scale, we said it was 3/16. Okay, so let me write that down so I know. 3/16. That means that I'm going to be using this scale right here. Okay, I'm using 3/16. This is very important too. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. Okay, so with this chart, this is why this chart is very helpful. With this chart, since I'm using 3/16 for that drawing, that means I'm going to go 3/16 and I'm going to go 3/30 seconds, and wherever those two meet is the text height that I'm going to be typing in model space so that it is 3/30 seconds in paper space. Okay, so I'm using 3/16 and I go here, there you go, 6. And I go 3/16, 3/30 seconds, 6. So that means this chart tells me that if I type my text 6 inches or 6 units high in model space, according to this scale, it's going to be 3/30 seconds when I print it. Again, at first this is kind of a little bit confusing, but once you understand the concept, it's a piece of cake. Okay, so again, this is how you work with text heights, and you use this chart. Okay, so again, you figure out the scale first. Once you have the scale, you come to the sheet and you look at the scale that you're using and look at the text, the height that you wanted on paper space. You come down, and in this case, my text has to be 6 inches or 6 units high. In this case, yeah, 6 inches high in model space, so that when I go to paper space and put it to that scale, 3/16, the text will be 3/32. Okay, let me explain a little more. I have a card right here. This text is not going to change. Okay, but if I get it close to you, the text becomes bigger. If I pull it away from you, the text becomes smaller. Okay, that's why we have to figure out how big do I make this text. How big do I make this text so that whenever I put it to the scale that it needs to be on, from your perspective, it is 3/32. In our case, that's text height that we use. Okay, so we have to figure out how big do we make this text so that we can get it. When we put it on the scale that we need it, it looks 3/32 high. Okay, another example. Let me go online. Where is it? Here you go. Another example. We are in, this is our building. I'm in Google Maps, right? This is our building, is right there. Now here, notice that we have some text. Okay? Now here the text is doing something different. This is called annotative text. What annotative text does is that it adjusts the text automatically. As you're scaling, are you pulling upper, inner, or out on that viewport, the text automatically adjusts. Okay? But you're going to learn that next semester. This semester we have to figure out how do we do it manually. So this right here is like if it was annotative text. Again, you're going to learn this next semester. Notice if I get closer, notice that I'm zooming in, the buildings become bigger, but the text itself stays the same. So it's adjusting. See how the text is adjusting? If I pull out, the building becomes smaller. I can see more, but the text adjusts itself so it stays the same height. See, the text is not getting bigger or smaller. The text is adjusting itself so it stays on the same height. Okay? In our case, we have to figure that out as we zoom in, zoom out, but the text has to be 3/32. Okay? So, that's why this chart here becomes handy. Because you figure out the scale, and based on the scale, you can go to the text height that you want in the sheet on paper space or on the actual print, and you go down, and wherever they meet, that's the text height. Okay? Now there's a formula. I'm going to share that with you when we meet in class, of course, virtually. Because I don't want to overwhelm you with information. Right now, I just want to focus on how to read this chart. So that means, now let's try it. If I come to, I know that the scale is 3/16. My text height should be, according to this sheet, according to the sheet, should be 6. Okay, so I'm going to go here. I'm going to go to model space, and I'm going to put text. And the height right here, I'm going to put 6. Okay, because that's what the chart is telling me. It should be 6. And I put here, I guess that's a bit. Okay, so this text here, it's 6. Now let's go to paper space. If I measure this, and let me do a line. Let me do a line that is 3/32 high. See how that text, it's 3/32 in paper space. Okay. This line I did I made it 3 seconds to prove to you that this text is 3/32 in paper space. In model space, it's 6. The text is not changing. The text is not becoming smaller. All it is that we adjusted, we figured out how big should the text be in model space so that in paper space is 3/32. Okay, so this chart becomes very handy, and this is how you use it. Now, I know some of you might have questions in regards to this. Please view this video, or of course you're watching this video. Write down your questions, and when we meet in class virtually, ask them, please. I don't want to share too much because I don't want you to be overwhelmed. I want to leave it up to there, how it works, how the text, from how we need to figure out the text height in model space so that in paper space it looks 332. Okay, and according to our standards, our text has to be 332. Being a leader, being a dimension, being just text like this, being nodes, being schedules, whatever, the text has to be 332. So according to the scale, okay, the scale is going to tell us how big should the text be in model space so that in paper space it's 332. Okay, and remember the scales vary. You have some drawings at a quarter scale, another one half scale, another one's at 1 inch scale, another one's at 1/16 scale. It doesn't matter. The scale can change on the set of drawings. You have several sheets. The scales can change there, but the text has to be consistent throughout when it's printed on the paper. And this is how we control it. Okay, so write down your questions. I know you might have some questions after this short explanation on how the effect of text and how to control the text in model space so that in paper space it's given as the text height that we want or that is required. So write down your questions, and we can discuss them during class when we meet virtually. Okay, so again, during class I'm going to go over any questions you guys might have, and we'll go over also how to figure out if you lose that sheet that I showed you. There you can do it. You can figure out the scales and you can figure out the text height with simple math, and I'll go over that also when we meet. Okay, so I'll stop it here and see you guys in class.